Good afternoon, evening, morning, wherever it is in the world that you are, and welcome in to the iFormula League round number 4 from Circuit de Spa-Francorchamps here for the F1 side of the league. I am your commentator Alyssa as well as broadcaster today, and I will be taking you through all of the action on and also potentially off the track as well. And to start things off, as you can hear behind me, as we're looking down towards the grid, qualifying has just started, so while they're getting out, they're doing their first out laps, they're starting to build themselves up for the first flyer. Let's take you through the current championship standings as it is from round number 4. So currently our championship leader is Riley Jacob for, I believe, I need to bring up the team names here, I believe it's Racing Lab. I'm pretty sure I got that one right. And, you know, in terms of results, Riley Jacob has been pretty good this season. Him and his teammate have been doing really well. They've been usually up near the top, almost always, in terms of the standings. And they seem to always have this knack of being able to find just that last couple of tenths that a lot of other drivers can't do. So, nice to see both of them, Riley and his teammate Oyvind, up there at the top with 94 points and 90 points respectively. Hannes Schlegel then in P3 of the championship for Inten Flat Out Sim Racing, followed off by Rolly Schilter and Ben Goldthorpe for the other Inten Sim Racing team. Inten Flat Out Sim Racing brings up then P6 with Gianluca Iliano, with Frank Bisa for the Bisa Racing Team P7, Alex Shanna for Lumos in P8, with Angelin Ponce racing for Team Messenger there in P9. Troy Banks rounds out our top 10 with the Nox E Motorsports team, who I don't think any of them are racing today, so I'm sure we will have potentially a new member in P10, but that is currently our top 10 as it stands right now. We do have a couple of new faces on track today as well, so always interested to see how that goes. So without further ado, let's get ourselves on track and see who right now is currently fastest through Sector 1 on their qualifying laps. And we are on board indeed with Liam Kerr to kick things off. Riley Jacob currently setting fastest in Sector 1. But Liam Kerr doing a pretty good job so far on his lap. And this is one of the new faces in today for the Do Automotives team. It is both Liam Kerr and Johan Roussel. Obviously, boys and girls and others, if you are, you know, potentially... if I'm not saying your name right, let me know, because I want to make sure I'm getting them right. I really want to make sure to get these names right. Some of them, like for example the Americans, Riley Jacob, Jacob Bisa, Frank Bisa, I'm pretty okay with. But some of the other names, like you Italians out there and you guys from the Scandinavian countries, maybe a little bit harder. But welcome in to the YouTube chat, obviously. I'm sat here reading some of the comments as they come through. And nice to know that Riley has that supportive love in the chat there. It's very, very good to see. And, of course, a massive shout-out to Riley's girlfriend there, to allowing him to race and not taking that away. Currently puts it on pole, so Riley Jacob, with the support of the girlfriend in tow, clearly that's what's making up that extra second. Not having to worry about... about feeling bad about it. He can just focus on the race, get his head down, and away he goes. So, awesome job so far from Riley Jacob then. Ben Goldthorpe setting in a pretty reasonable time as well, of a 1 minute 44 flat. So Riley Jacob currently fastest with a 1:42.9. And then we move into the 44s, so Ben Goldthorpe and Liam Kerr. Then we move into the 1:45 lap times for Jacob Bisa for his first lap out. And, you know, I'm going to be interested to see how the race series develops in practice. There looks to be some challenge finally going in the way of the Racing Lab boys. So, interesting to see whether or not the new guys can come in and start taking the fight to them. I did say last race out, of course. If anybody can challenge them, they've got to come in and they've got to bring everything they've got. So, it'll be interesting to see where things go, of course. the championship still relatively early. We're near the halfway point, but still things can change very quickly in a series that has not one but two ways to earn your points. As off in the background there, I believe, was Rowley. Let's see what happened here. Coming through the piff path, just gets on the curb a little bit too much, and yeah, wheels gone, popped off, and that car's not really going anywhere fast. It's unfortunate. Ben Goldthorpe currently trying to set up for a lap time while also getting out of the way of the drivers coming through on their first quali laps, so we'll have to wait and see where Ben can get himself. But let me know, everyone, where are you watching from in the YouTube chat? If you have a favourite driver, of course, some of you may be biased on that one. Let me know that as well. And another thing, if you generally have questions about how the series runs, how things are going on, feel free to let us know that as well. We're always looking for feedback here at the IFL to make sure that your experience in the chat is also just as nice as the experience for our drivers. So anything we can do to make this broadcast better, the racing better, anything, just let us know. We'll be trying to take it on board as much as we can here, obviously. Dream girlfriend indeed. The one who's supportive of your sim racing hobbies. Currently the Beasters 6th and 7th, and one name that you'll probably see in the overlay, which won't be racing, but will appear in the qualifying timings, unfortunately, is Kenneth Paul, who is the reserve driver for the Beaster racing team, hence the yellow sort of stripe beside their name. And speaking of the stripes beside people's names, I've tried to make them as different as possible, but there's so many red or orange liveries in this series that it seems like I can't really find a way to differentiate between all the different teams. And I think eventually we're going to have to tell people, right, you can have any colour you want as long as it isn't red or orange. So it makes finding a colour really difficult. As Ben Goldthorpe there locking up into the bus stop chicane and not really able to find much more time anyway during that lap. So let's see how Frederick Larsson's doing coming in for the Orion Racing team, or potentially another team at some point. I can't remember if he is a reserve driver for another team, so that's something I'll have to potentially ask him later on. Frederick been part of the league now for a little while, so has experience driving with us here, but also has experience driving these types of cars as well. Used to drive as, I believe it was a reserve as well, in the F1, as well as driving F3 a lot. Doing really well in the F3 this season. And the F3, of course, being hosted tomorrow on a different channel, so make sure we go check that out. Make sure that you are following along with as much action as you can here in the IFL, of course. Having 2 races every weekend is definitely one that you don't want to miss, that's for sure. I do have to say that Beaster Racing Team car looks pretty sleek. Pretty low to the ground though. Not necessarily a lot of high rake, which may pay dividends in the straight line speed of the car, of course. But maybe lack in certain areas as well. We'll have to wait and see. Obviously, the middle sector is rather important around this circuit, and normally the philosophy with car setups, or at least how they've been around Spa in general, is you either set the car up to be really quick through sectors 1 and 3, which is the main straights and the bits that aren't so twisty, or you set it up for sector 2, which is all of the big twisty bits. All of the corners and the medium speed and the low speed stuff. A lot of time to be found if you can find the good setup there. Some people doing some practice starts as well on the exit of the pit lane. No harm, no foul on that, of course. If they want to get that practice in, by all means do it, but all focus should really be on trying to get that very elusive pole position as of late, unless your name's Riley Jacob, in which case you've been pretty used to it so far this season. You know, it is nice to see a couple of other names up there near the top of the timing sheets so far. And let's get you your gaps to then Riley Jacob in terms of the lap times as it stands right now. At the moment, you've got Øyvind Haugland, his teammate, 8/10 off pretty much, followed by Ben Goldthorpe, who is a second off, so only 3/10 behind Øyvind. Gianluca Iliano 1.6 seconds back, with Frederick Larsen 1.7, Liam Kerr 1.8, Hannes 1.9, Jacob Beiser 2 seconds back, so a really, really good fight seeming to be brewing for that 4th position. Really, really close battle between all of those drivers. And then Johan Roussel is a little bit further back from Jacob Beiser, only 2/10, but that 2/10 around a circuit like Spa is actually quite a lot. And then Frank Beiser still not able to really set a representative lap time, as Alexander Shanna also struggling a little bit as well. Apparently Alex Shanna's VR died before this race, so potentially driving on the flat screen today, the good old pancake monitor. Rody Schilter, Eystein, Schiapolone as well not setting lap times just yet, so we'll have to wait and see what sort of lap times they can do. And of course, I'll reiterate for those of you who are just joining in that Kenneth Paul, while in the standings, currently is not actually going to be racing or qualifying. So just a little heads up on that one. If there was a way to remove drivers like that from the graphic, I definitely would find a way to do so. But unfortunately, I don't think there is one. Of course, the other thing, if you are interested in Formula racing, single-seater racing as a whole, feel free to follow us along, obviously. Hit that like button. Subscribe, as we always tell people. You know, I know it's a YouTube gimmick. We always love to say, you know, all of our viewers, audiences are like, you know, 55% of you aren't subscribed and whatever, so I don't want to repeat what everyone else is saying, but if you enjoy the content, feel free to support us. Because, you know, we enjoy making the content, and we like to see people enjoying it too. I definitely like enjoying the content here. And while the racing this season has been a little bit of a mixed bag, I'm sure the sprint will always provide action, so stay tuned for that one. That will be our final race this evening. It will be a, I believe, 22-lap race around Spa for our first race, and then it will be moving on to a 7-lap sprint race afterwards. So the sprint is always the cherry on top, indeed. It is. You get some really good action, hopefully, in the main race. And if your appetite still isn't quenched yet for racing, then you have a 5-minute wait. You know, we get a nice little bit of a break in between the sessions before we hit you again with arguably the most chaotic race you will ever see in single-seater action. It is bonkers. The other thing as well is it will be, and this is actually going to be relevant for this race, is the top 12 positions get reversed and inverted for the sprint race. So potentially there is going to be one driver who will not be... one driver who potentially is, say, for example, like Alex Shanna is right now in P13, is potentially going to find themselves staying there when it comes to the sprint aspect of it. So going to be interesting to see then how hard you fight for that P12, considering the fact that you know you would then start on pole for the sprint. Let's hear some predictions then from you guys in the viewers' comments. As it stands right now, based on qualifying results, who do we think is going to be taking the top 3 spots in our feature race I'll give in my 2 cents as well, just so some of you have something to go off of. I think the top 3, of course, I can't count out Riley Jacob and Øyvind Haugland. I think those two have been a pretty dominant force this season, although, saying that, I think Øyvind is going to be challenged quite a lot this race. We know his racecraft is good. I've seen his racecraft be good before, in person, as well as through having a team previously in the league. And, you know, I expect some of the newcomers, like Liam Kerr, to be doing really well. You know, I think Liam Kerr, for his first race with us, looks pretty quick so far. Looked really quick in practice as well. I reckon he's going to be a dark horse. He's going to come through the field, and if he doesn't start P3, he'll probably end there. So it'll be interesting to see how he fights with Guanluca, Ben Goldthorpe, Frederick Larson, etc. And yeah, we'll just see how this develops, as it seems like the fight now is definitely being taken to Øyvind in terms of the lap times. So Liam Kerr right now a second off of what Riley Jacob's able to do, but only 2/10 off Øyvind. So if he can find 3/10, he'll sit himself quite nicely between the two racing lap drivers and potentially be able to fight with Riley Jacob off the beginning. Of course, if you can stay with Riley Jacob for the first 3 laps, you do get that lovely DRS, which will help you make passes that otherwise may have been a little bit harder to make. Maybe not impossible, but definitely harder. We've got Marianne predicting a Shanna P7. Well, he did say that hopefully he finishes this race, unlike he's done in previous episodes. Races. This isn't this isn't a ongoing TV series. We're not making the IFL equivalent of Drive to Survive just yet. Who knows? Maybe we can. If anybody wants to know more about the drivers afterwards, and we can do that. Lewis Bloom in the chat, welcome in. How long is the race? So we've got 2 races this evening. We've got a 22-lap main race, which is going to be after the qualifying. The qualifying, of course, in the top left of your screen, 25 minutes in length, and we have currently been through 18 minutes of it. Then, after that, we have a 5-minute warm-up where we'll go through a couple of the sponsor stuff and, you know, just talk a bit about that. Because, again, a massive shout-out to our sponsors, as always. We love to be able to be supported by them. They also offer us some great incentives too. And then after we go through all of the warm-up malark, we go into a 7-lap sprint race, which in F1 cars, a sprint race is pretty mental. So make sure you don't go anywhere. That race is going to be one that you don't want to miss. If you think maybe the main event is getting a little bit boring, that's understandable, but come back for the sprint. Guaranteed action the entire time. You don't want to miss it. My voice is going to die by the end of that sprint race. Guaranteed. And of course, as we look at the lap times so far, the most surprising thing, I think, at the moment is how the new drivers have come in. So Liam Kerr and Johan Roussel have come in and immediately put their name on the map, with Johan being currently P10 and Liam Kerr being P3, which is something that a lot of people would say was pretty difficult. I mean, you're looking at potentially the top 2 in the 2 Intend Sim Racing teams. So Intend Flat Out and then Intend Sim Racing, looking to be incredibly quick by themselves, so Guanluca and Ben. The fact that you've immediately come in here and challenged them straight off the bat, and you're even challenging the Racing Lab guys who have been dominant all season, things are looking good for Liam. Though with Øyvind getting a little bit of a slipstream off of one of the Intend Sim Racing guys, it'll be interesting to see, can he improve on his lap time? He's green through the mini sectors here of sectors 3 and sectors 4. Before he comes across the line, it was a little bit shaky coming out of the corner, not able to really get the power down as much as he'd like, and does improve, but not by a massive amount. So, track seemingly getting a little bit harder to control the car with. It's seeming like the grip level just isn't quite there yet for these drivers, so we'll quickly pop up the weather for you. Currently 18 degrees C ambient with an 18 degrees C track, so definitely a cold one out there, so grip shouldn't really be an issue. Of course, however, you do have to worry that these tyres go off pretty quickly. And the wind, I would say, is a factor, but in sim racing, it tends to not really be as much of a benefit or a hindrance as maybe it is in real life. Obviously, in real life, they talk about the wind quite a lot, do the top-level F1 teams, because they're trying to find literal milliseconds worth of time out on track, and those things change a little bit in sim. There's some things that change in terms of lines that people take to save those microseconds, compared to like the wind sort of issues that you may have, as we see a spin here from Gianluca going into the second of Stavlo. And that is one corner that I did actually want to bring up as Frank Bisa just goes through it. So Stavlo, on the exit of Stavlo, a lot of people actually tend to hug this inside line all the way coming out of Stavlo 2. They'll keep to the inside as much as possible to shave off those microseconds that you would see at the absolute top level. I wouldn't expect necessarily some of these guys to be doing it, but definitely your top level esports guys. You see some slightly weirder lines than you would in real life just to save those, you know, 0.001 of a seconds, which makes all the difference when you see how close their lap times are near the end. Eystein currently improving on their lap time. Be interesting to see whether or not they actually go up any more positions. Unfortunately not. As I want to see if anyone else is improving on their lap times, but it doesn't look like they are at the moment, so we'll have to wait and see for that one. Hannes at the moment improving through sectors 3 and 4, but depending on how Hannes handles the final corner, and it looked pretty smooth for the most part, maybe a little bit twitchy on exit, but they recovered really well, puts themselves P7 right ahead of Frederick Larsen, and again really close to Rolly Schilter, who I believe is one of their teammates. No, their teammate, sorry, is Gianluca Iliano. It's Ben and Rolly that are together in the team. I always tend to get that wrong because the Intend sim racing guys haven't really made that as easy as I would have liked. The livery is still pretty similar. It's a bit like when you had Red Bull and Toro Rosso, and they had very basically identical liveries, bar some minute details of maybe the engine cover was slightly different, but it was really not that noticeable when the car's going 1 billion miles an hour. But of course, as always, everyone watching in chat, qualifying is coming to a close, and as such, I want to hear the predictions. Who do you think is going to win the main race? Who do you think is going to have, let's also say, most spectacular save? Let's get a community poll going for most spectacular save after the race. You know, in between race number 1 and race number 2. We'll see if we can get something set up for that. Obviously, I don't know how much we can really control, but if I can do it, I'll make it happen. We do love, obviously, the community behind everything that we do here. Without you guys, we wouldn't be doing this, and then obviously without the drivers, I wouldn't have anything to broadcast to, so, you know, massive shout out goes to everyone involved behind the scenes, everyone involved on track as well. All you guys watching in the YouTube chat, all you guys who lurk, who comment, who get involved, share it around. We appreciate every single one of you as we round out the last couple of seconds here, last 10 seconds of the qualifying session. Miriam's putting their money on the Bicer guys for the most fantastic save. But we'll have to wait and see. If anyone goes completely 90 degrees up Eau Rouge and Radion and manages to actually hold it, that would be the most spectacular save I think I would have ever seen in in history when it comes to the racing. But your results then of the qualifying, let's bring those up if we can. And it is indeed a Racing Lab 1-2 with Riley Jacob and Oyvind Horglen picking up that 1-2. followed off by Liam Kerr for the Dual Automotives team in P3, Gianluca Iliano for Intend Flat Out Sim Racing in P4, Ben Goldthorpe and Rolly Schilter then P5 and P6 for Intend Sim Racing, with Hannes Schlogel there for the Intend Flat Out Sim Racing team. Frederick Larson sitting in P8, could have probably found a couple of tenths, but you know, he'll be pretty happy with at least P8, maybe not getting enough practice. Jacob Beiser picking up P9 with Johan Roussel picking up P10. Then we have Eystein Chiapolone and Frank Beiser picking up P11 and P12, with Alex Shanna rounding out the back of the grid. Of course, Kenneth not in the session. So, to the green lights we go, waiting for the gridding to finish up, and we will see if we can get a view here of our poleman Riley Jacob. The helmet that looks incredibly similar to the one that I use in iRacing. Admittedly, I use purple instead of the black and white feather that he's got going on in the back, but hey, respect the man for it. As we go to the rear of the car, hopefully the lights will come on in just a second. And here we go. The revs start to rise as we go to 5 red lights here in Belgium. And we are green here for Spa for round number 4. And it looks like it's been a pretty good start so far for Riley Jacob. Looked like some of the Intend Sim Racing guys actually got a pretty bad start, and it's caused the field to bunch up there in the background. We'll see if we can keep an eye on this fight going up through Old Rouge Rally, on everyone going single file for now. Everyone making it through cleanly so far. Most important thing, get through lap 1. Then, after you get through lap 1, then you worry about potentially who you're fighting with, as Liam Kerr doing some very aggressive defensive driving, but still right onto the back of Øyvind Haugland. Most importantly, he wants to keep that slipstream as best he can, and he tries to even look for the move up the inside, but nothing doing just yet. He's got to sit back, wait patiently for his move. It is a 22-lap race, so you don't really want to be sending it if you don't have to, as the action now has calmed down on track. And so far, touching wood, of course, no unfortunate spins just yet. And of course, as I say that, Johan Roussel, unfortunately, going off track here. We'll get an onboard with them. And oh, that car is, yeah, I'm not sure what happened there for Johan, but that steering is incredibly crooked. So we jump back on board with Liam Kerr, and it looks like we've caught him just in time. Potentially going to try and size up a move here on Øyvind Haugland. Just going into the bus stop now. He's going to look to the inside line on the on the soft tires versus the Øyvind's mediums. Looks up to the inside line, gets it, gets the move made, and that is a P2 now for Liam Kerr. Talk about putting a statement on your name. A couple of the Intend Sim Racing guys unfortunately missing the bus stop chicane. I believe Frederick Larson already going into the pit lane, so maybe that's what Johan Roussel had to deal with, was maybe contact between the two of them. I'm not sure if I have anything else on that, as Ben Goldthorpe has crashed as well. We'll have to wait and see what happened there. Potentially that's just being slow coming out of the final corner, so we'll have to wait and see. But Øyvind, of course, now trying to look with this train to attack on Liam Kerr, gets the move done way before the end of the straight. That's how powerful the slipstream is here around Spa, of course. It is a very powerful tool, and if you can use it to the best of your abilities, you're going to do well here. Riley Jacob, though, managing to really pull away for the moment, and hey, if he can do that and he doesn't have to worry about battling, he can say to his teammate, just keep going. Just keep going as much as you can, because at the end of the day, if Riley doesn't have to worry about it, they can switch up the strategy, put Øyvind onto maybe the more preferred strategy, and Riley won't necessarily have to matter as much of saving tires. Tell the commentator no, they're pronouncing Gianluca's name wrong. Okay, thank you. Thank you for the pronunciation. I appreciate it. Of course, me being British, I hardly know how to pronounce names at the best of times. As, of course, the action still heating up on track. Liam Kerr and Øyvind Haugland both battling side by side, and it seems like Liam cannot shake Øyvind off, and Øyvind doing a great defensive drive so far. However, now being a little bit farther back than normal from where he would expect to be coming out of the bus stop chicane, is maybe going to allow Juan-Luca to put pressure on him. Hannes Schlogel maybe finding a way through as well. We'll have to wait and see. Obviously, DRS is now open, so watch the rear flaps of these cars as they go past the DRS detection zone in through the DRS point, which is here. Now we're going to see Øyvind being attacked by not one, but probably two intense sim racing cars, and Jean-Luca already past Øyvind before the braking zone, so Jean-Luca now already good to go, already now trying to attack onto the back end of Liam Kerr, and if he can keep up, then potentially those two can start taking the fight to Riley Jacob. If they work together and don't fight too hard, but of course they're racing drivers, when does that ever happen? We'll have to wait and see, of course. But if they can work together, Riley Jacob probably won't be able to defend that well. And Øyvind Haugland is just sort of going to sit back in the DRS and hopefully keep up the best he can. Maybe just be pulling along, and potentially fuel saving could be in effect, but we don't know how effective that's going to be, of course. You probably just, considering you don't have to refuel in this series, you're probably just going to put in just as much as you need to make it, and that's it. And already it's looking like Ben Goldthorpe potentially going for a move on one of the bices so far. So Ben Goldthorpe for Intense Sim Racing had an earlier incident, which I'm not sure if we caught on stream. Potentially it was the one where he came out of the corner and was looking pretty slow, pulling over to the left-hand side, so maybe missed the braking zone. As Liam Kerr currently fastest lap so far for him, and setting one that looks pretty competitive and maybe within Riley Jacobs' slipstream soon, as this battle for P7 continues to rage on in the background. Let's keep an eye, see if we can figure out what's going on between the battles here, as Ben Goldthorpe with DRS unfortunately got past before the DRS point even. So Ben Goldthorpe unfortunately, Jacob Bisa unfortunately not able to really defend, and then the moment you see Eystein as well with the DRS, Jacobs just sort of sat there thinking, well, I just have to wait, sit behind. If I can keep with him, I can get DRS next time by, and we can do the same thing back to Ben. And then we do the same thing next to Eystein the next lap by as well. So that is going to be the game plan for Jacob Bisa. Of course, both Bisas currently 9th and 10th so far. Liam Kerr, I want to see whether or not he can actually catch up to the back end of Riley Jacob. Looks very quick so far in the Do Automotives car. P2, currently car number 16, so important to look out for that in the future, I'm sure. Definitely looking to take home a few more points. And here we go, Liam Kerr once again is going to have DRS on Riley Jacob, so moving on to lap 5. Let's see what can happen here. Can Liam get a move? I mean, he's got the DRS, so if he is running a higher downforce package, then potentially we may see that all of the sort of negatives of that high downforce package of, you know, potentially having to be the one who's creating that pocket, who's really quick in a straight line but maybe not as quick in the middle sector, is actually not going to be as important. The DRS opens up, and of course a lot of that drag that you had running a higher downforce package is gone immediately, and you see he's not able to kind of close up as much as he would have liked to, is Liam Kerr. So potentially is going to have to set this move up over the course of a couple of laps. And if that's the case, I mean, Kerr's coming in and he's already bringing the heat straight away. First race in with the IFL and doing some amazing driving right now. Of course, on the soft tyres though, so we'll have to pit earlier, you would imagine, than what Riley is able to do. And potentially that is another reason as to why Liam seems to be a little bit quicker through the twisty stuff, is he is on that soft compound of tyre. Potentially, of course, This could also be a visual glitch, in which case iRacing still needs to sort that out, and I don't know what people's tyres are on. We'll have to wait and see. You'd imagine they would change tyres, and this will be a one-stop strategy for everyone involved. So you would imagine if they start on softs, they'll switch to mediums, and likewise, if they start on mediums, they'll switch to softs. So we'll have to wait and see how that develops. Liam Kerr, currently on the back end of Riley Jacob, was going to try and maybe look for the move. Looked as if he was going to dart outside and just let Riley know, hey, mate, I'm here. If you make a mistake, I'm going to be right here on you. And Riley, I mean, he's looking to be pressured right now. It is not looking good for him. He's normally out front and not really people many challenge him. So it'll be interesting to see, can Riley handle the pressure? You know, we know he's very quick. We know he's at that sort of top level. So let's see, is he able to defend? As now we go down the Camel Straight, Liam Kerr pulls out DRS enabled, and of course, I think Riley, unfortunately, is just not able to really challenge. And you see the difference there with just DRS alone, how much further Liam Kerr can get into the braking zone and past Riley before he even has a chance to respond. So Riley Jacob has to sit back and now probably do the same thing that Liam did to him the next lap by. That's at least going to be the plan for Riley Jacob. But if Liam can run away in the middle sector, we know he's been putting in quick laps so far. If he can run away in the middle sector and get out of DRS range, then I don't think Riley will have a chance to fight back, and that will put the Racing Lab team currently 2nd and 4th. So great job from Liam Kerr, currently sitting in 1st place after starting P3, by the way. So 2 positions gained so far, and actually starting to run away from Riley Jacob as well, which is most important for him. He's going to want to be trying to pull away, especially if he needs to do a stop before this. But Riley Jacob now reeling him in, thanks to the slipstream, thanks to maybe DRS as well next time by. And you see how much faster Riley Jacob is, so I'd imagine Liam Kerr higher downforce setup than what Riley's running. And as such, it's going to lead to that levels of change, as Liam already into the pit lane on lap 7. So soft tyres already gone off for Liam Kerr. He will probably be switching to the medium tyres. Let's see if we can get an onboard of him as he comes into the pit lane, stops and changes those tyres. So potentially he was running the softs, as we see him go up on the jacks, come back down, and we should see that tyre change hopefully. Or alternatively, he will exit the car and not be in this session. Unsure what's happening here as Frank Bisa in the background. We heard a car spinning there. So let's see what happened to Frank. Just locks up, spins the car around, reverses out to the outside of the track, waits for the car to come through, and gets going again. So interesting that Liam Kerr is out of this session already. It's very interesting indeed. Maybe. Now, I'm not saying it happened, but potentially he didn't change his setup and he was running the qualifying setup in the race. And you don't get to refuel in this session. So if you didn't have enough fuel to make it to the end, maybe that is why he is now back in the pit lane. But that is a devastating start from someone who looked to be challenging for the race lead and looked to be challenging for that win. I mean, you talk about making a name for yourself. You come in, put it on P3 straight away, and then immediately the race starts and you're putting so much pressure on Riley Jacob. You get that move done, and immediately the same lap you get the move done, you come into the pit lane and park it up. No idea what happened. I wonder, hopefully, whether or not he can put something maybe in the Discord, put it in the YouTube chat, and see what has gone on. I'll see if I can maybe look, see if I can get some sort of word from him, even. Definitely be nice to find, as I'm not sure how much I can see, though. So, it doesn't look like I can really see anything. So, if he has done what I'm assuming he's done, and that unfortunately means that he will not be rejoining. So Riley Jacob already has a massive sigh of relief, if that's the case, because he's not going to be being pressured anymore. Oh dear, Liam puts it in. Says it was going to be a 7-lap sprint and didn't put enough fuel. Yeah, unfortunately, the main race is the first one out, Liam, and then the sprint is after this. So potentially, as I said, not the qualifying setup, but it was pretty close to it. And hey, if it was the sprint, of course, he would have ended up winning. So there is that. There is that to keep in mind. But unfortunately, there from Liam, puts the sprint setup on for the feature race. And unfortunately, as we said before, you can't refuel in this session, so he is out for now. But he will be back in the sprint, hopefully. Hopefully he stays in the session and gets back in for the sprint race and is able to really show us what he's made of for that one too. As Jacob Bisa currently being passed by Ben Goldthorpe. Nice move from Ben, and that puts himself up to P6. So a mistake I'm sure that Liam moving forward is going to learn from, and we'll see him back out there, I'm sure, for next round, and he will be very much looking to take the fight to the Sim Racing Lab team. As Oyvind Haugland starting to put pressure on Gianluca. Gianluca still... Oh, sorry, Gianluca. I mispronounced the name again. Whoops, my bad. But yeah, Gianluca. There we go. I will get that ingrained in my head at some point throughout this race. Oyvind putting pressure on Gianluca then. And Gianluca currently sitting in quite a comfortable position. Admittedly, is being chased down pretty quickly by Oyvind, so maybe the Racing Lab team have opted for quicker in the middle sector, but maybe not as quick through sectors 1 and 3. At least when I refer to sectors 1 and 3, I refer to them by the real-life sectors 1 and 3, and not the iRacing mini sectors, as they love to be called, because I feel like iRacing need to sort of sort that out at some point, because while it's really nice sometimes, because you can really dissect where am I going wrong, for broadcasters, I think it's something we would like to see change. Maybe have like a preference option somewhere, so that we can give that information out in terms of the overall picture being a little bit easier to follow along. Oyvind Haugland at the moment currently finding it relatively easy to follow along, but Gianluca coming into the pit lane then on lap 10 out of 22. And if Gianluca has made it this far on potentially soft tyres, I want to see if we can maybe get a pit lane shot here. Then mediums, you would imagine, would be pretty easy to go all the way to the end. We'll see him go up on the jacks, come back down, and out he goes. Onto, apparently, another set of softs. I'm not going to trust it. iRacing has been known sometimes to not give us all of the information that we need. So Riley Jacob then, of course, currently leading our race, and looking like now, with the pressure gone from Liam Kurt, that it's going to be a pretty easy one for himself. He just needs to relax, get it to the end, much like Oyvind Haugland, and hopefully, he can do the same in the sprint. Of course, the sprint race last time out was really hectic for a lot of the drivers, and it was a circuit that maybe didn't lend itself quite as well to the sprint layout. Obviously, quite a tight technical circuit was the Barcelona circuit. Spa, however, a little bit more open. There's a lot more places to make a move around Spa, so I'm sure the sprint race will be filled with action and more DRS trains than you can shake a stick at. And I'm sure eventually I'm going to use a terminology of the fact that you can cover them all with a bed sheet. They're all so close throughout the race at some point in the sprint for sure. It's a good saying to sort of give people an indication on just how close they are. Frank Bisa then trying to chase down Frederick Larson, who very, very quick And I believe Frederick actually got the move done last lap by. So let's see if we can get an onboard here down the Kemmel straight. Straight past, nice and easy. Down into the braking zone. Almost goes a little bit too quick into the braking zone there. Has to sacrifice quite a lot of the corner to continue on. So maybe thought the brakes were a little bit better than they actually were. As Frank Bisa now with DRS is going to keep trying to keep on the back end of Frederick Larsen and maybe make a move at some point. But Gianluca now, after having done his pit stop, already trying to hunt down Jacob Bisa. So the Bisas already, after not even pitting yet, already being put under pressure, which, I mean, they don't mind it, of course, gives them someone to race out there. As it almost looked as though Jacob was going to let Gianluca through, or Gianluca through. I'll get it right eventually. I do wonder whether or not Gianluca's going to be patient, sit it out, wait for a moment, or whether Gianluca is just going to put his foot down, get past Jacob Bisa any means necessary, and not worry necessarily about the risk. Because, of course, he could just wait. He knows he's got the pace, he's got the DRS coming up soon, so he could just wait for the Kemmel straight and do it there. Or we may see him go for a move in the bus stop chicane, the two side by side, of course, through, I believe that is Blanchimont. Someone in the comments will probably correct me. He goes for the move, actually backs out of it, lets Jacob make that mistake, gets back on the throttle, and with DRS, you would imagine move will be done before the braking zone of turn 1. And there's probably going to be no way for Jacob to fight back, although he does. Up the inside, Jacob Bisa then, side by side, going up the hill. Gianluca getting the much better exit, of course, on those much fresher tyres. And going through Eau Rouge and up the hill through Ranion. And Gianluca making it look effortless. Although DRS fight back from Jacob Bisa. They touch almost going into the braking zone. Jacob doing an incredible job fighting back on older rubber as well. So maybe taking the tyre life out more than you probably need to. And Jacob managing to get that position back almost immediately. So once again, maybe waiting until the Kemmel straight is going to be a better place to do it, because they can't really fight back through the middle sector, as we're seeing quite a lot around Spa. And of course, Gianluca is going to try up the inside of Piff Paff, Flip Flap, Flip Flop, whatever you want to call it. I do love the many names that that corner has had. There's an official name, but I always forget it. Always add in Piff Paff or Flip Flap. Or even Flip Flop if you wanted to. Reminds you in the change of direction. I love all the lovely corner names that has been accumulated throughout the years of multiple people broadcasting on these circuits. Gianluca then looking up to the inside, this time not making the move, just backing out, much like he did last time by. Looking to get the undercut immediately, but Jacob Bisa this time a bit more aware of it. And with DRS, Gianluca, you can imagine, is going to go up the inside. Is Jacob just going to let off? Let him have the inside line, get DRS on him, and then go for it up through Eau Rouge, up through Radion. As we see once again, this lovely camera shot of the cars going up the hill. Unfortunately, can't see him sparking like you would in maybe GT3. But with DRS then, Jacob Bisa, is he going to be too far back to attack? Of course not. He's judged this to perfection, has Jacob Bisa. Into the braking zone we go, up the inside, which of course will turn around to the outside. Gianluca has to back out. Gianluca, unfortunately, having a real fight here, probably where he doesn't want it. Because it's impacting his ability to then fight Ben Goldthorpe further up the road. And Hannes Schlogel, his teammate, of course, not able to really catch up either. So Jacob Bisa doing an incredible job fighting off someone who, you would argue, for most of this race, has been quite a bit quicker. but it's almost seeming like the pace is starting to settle down from a lot of these drivers. So closest battle on track, of course, between Gianluca and Jacob Bisa. And Jacob Bisa, of course, is yet to pit. Gianluca is one of the earliest pitters, I believe, along with Eystein there in P9. And Riley Jacob now has come into the pit lane on lap 13 here, which will obviously turn into lap 14. Gianluca having to take some avoiding action there of a slow-moving Jacob Bisa out of Blanchimont. Now into the bus stop chicane we go, and Jacob Bisa, of course, we know hasn't really been able to fight necessarily, but with DRS down the main straight here, are they going to be able to fight back one more time? Pit lanes are open, everyone diving in, dip diving, ducking, weaving into the pit lane. Of course, trying to lose as little time as possible as they do so. Riley Jacob already out of the pits, by the way. A massive amount of time gained for him, as Rowley has come out of the pit lane P4. Hannes Schlegel coming out of the pit lane P5 immediately behind Ben Goldthorpe. So Ben having a pretty good pit stop there for himself, and Frederick still has to do one more stop, I believe. So currently sitting in P7, unless that early stop is really making him go all the way. Eystein Chirpolone also caught up to the back end of Frederick Larsen now, so potentially a couple more moves in play here, as Eystein really trying to look for the inside line, and Frederick saying, no you don't, sit behind me mate, and we can maybe try and work together and catch up to the back of Hannes that we've just seen come out of the pit lane. Very AlphaTauri inspired livery for the Lumos Motorsports team, that is of Eystein Chirpolone as well as Alexander Shanna. And Jacob Bisa, having come out of the pit lane, currently sits in P9. So everyone now except for Øyvind Haugland and Frank Bisa have indeed come into the pits for the first time. Øyvind Haugland now coming through and pitting, so watch out for where Øyvind comes out. Gianluca Iliano, of course, pit really early. Like, really early, in comparison to a lot of other drivers. So Gianluca coming out of the bus stop now. Øyvind Haugland hasn't even stopped yet. He's just stopped in his box now. Oh, and it's a long stop. 5.7 seconds in the box for Øyvind. And I think Gianluca will come out ahead of Øyvind. Gianluca is there. Øyvind is here. Rowley Schulze there in the background as well. So Øyvind has actually lost out almost a second worth of time there in the pit stop window, and most of that came through the, you'd have to say, rather poor pit crew that they've hired for this event. The Racing Lab team not giving the same respect as they do to Riley Jacob. Potentially something they're going to have to fork out post-race, because that stop, 5.7 seconds, I mean, that's not quite good enough. You're looking at maybe a jammed gun on the back. Tyre not playing ball. Maybe a bolt missing. Or, potentially, from Øyvind's point of view, missed pit box. So, we don't want to give all the hate to the pit crew, but of course, 5.7 seconds when everyone else is doing 4.5 to 4.1 second stops. It does add up. That 1 second, as you can see on track, has made quite a lot of difference, because that is 1 second longer you aren't moving, whereas everyone else is. As Eystein trying to hunt down Frederick Larsen still. As we move on to lap 16 here of 22, so only 6 more laps to go. Riley Jacob currently taking fastest lap of the race. First lap by on, obviously, the fresh tyres. So those will be your fastest laps. And those are the laps that you really want to get in, because the fast laps are going to be the ones that will net you an extra point in the championship, which could be important, especially considering Øyvind is currently only 4 points behind you in the championship, if you're Riley Jacob. And if you're one of these three right here battling it out, at the moment, Frederick Larsen doing an incredible defensive drive. Eystein trying to just fight his way through and not really able to make any headway just yet. These three all so close on track. that, I'm not going to finish that one. You know where I was going with it. Mentioned it earlier in the stream, of course, and up through Old Rouge and Radion, they're all trying to fight for position. It always looks as though they were going to try and go 3 wide, maybe. As Icestein with DRS, Jacob with DRS is going to leave Frederick Larsen in the dust, you would imagine. But Frederick Larsen, maybe with the higher deploy modes, is really putting that car to the test. That Ferrari-looking almost livery there, sitting in the middle and only allowing one of them to come through, despite the fact that both of them were incredibly close. Both of them had DRS, and already we're seeing a battle brewing now from Frederick Larsen. Goes a little bit wide here into No Name. Round the outside, does Jacob Bisa make the move work and take a bow? Jacob Bisa, that was one heck of a move, and already Frederick Larsen going up the inside, contact between the two then through Puon, and immediately answering back. Move made through No Name, immediately move made through Puon, and potential damage done. Little bit of netcode contact, and immediately Frederick Larsen spun into Stavlo 1, and oh dear, Frederick Larsen, maybe because of the contact, damage has been done to that car. We'll have to wait and see whether or not both of them come into the pit lane, but what a move there from Jacob Bisa, going around the outside of No Name, and then Frederick Larsen deciding, okay mate, you've overtaken me, I'm going to overtake you. Immediately back into Puon. Two of them do make some slight contact. Seems like Jacob got off fine, but Frederick Larsen, as we saw, unfortunately went off track. Wasn't able to bring it back, so let's see what happened here. He goes in and just no front downforce at all, or potentially too much, no rear downforce, and the car spins round. He gets it back onto track pretty quickly though, so doesn't lose too much time, but had to come immediately back into the pit lane. And off screen, we did see Oyvind Haugland pass Gianluca with DRS enabled. Of course, it's going to make this move look relatively easy. And job done and dusted. Oyvind Haugland makes the move, and that is move done and dusted. And he's going to be pretty proud of himself for that one. It's a pretty easy move to make, but when you make it work, you know, it's really nice. Let's see if I can bring back up, actually, Frederick's move up through Puon, then on board with the two. And you see there's contact there that gets made. It's very much net-coded contact. Contact that if they were racing in real life, I don't think happens. But I believe that may have caused some damage to Frederick Larsen's car. As you see already, or potentially, he just takes in too much speed. It was definitely netcode, of course, between the two of them. There was no malicious intent there with Frederick Larsen, so I wouldn't imagine any penalties being made. I think that was just one of those unlucky things, but both of them seemed to get off pretty well, and what a series of overtakes that was. Of course, we'll see if we can maybe get that from Jacob's point of view in a moment. But of course, Rowley, now after that move got made on Gianluca, I'm not sure if Gianluca has any damage potentially or is trying to save fuel, because he is already being hunted down by Rowley, and immediately the move has been made, and Gianluca already dropping off the back. So Gianluca really not having a great time of it on this second half of the race, and I'm unsure as to why, because it looks as though his race was going really well, and already 4 seconds made in almost 1.5 laps. You have to imagine there is some fuel saving going on or some damage somewhere, or potentially maybe even a hybrid deploy mode stuck in no deploy if he was changing around too much, and that's what's costing him all this time. As Jacob Bisa now on the fight of Icestein. So let's see, can Jacob Bisa do the same move that maybe Frederick was looking to do? Indeed not, he thinks better of it for now. Is Jacob Bisa going to be able to go up the inside and maybe make a move on Icestein here? On the inside of Piff Path? But nope, not thinking of it just yet. Happy to sit behind, maybe knows, you know what? These corners may be a bit too tricky to get the move done. So all I'm going to do is I'm going to sit back, I'm going to wait, I'm going to make the move with Slipstream up the inside, and the move is nice and easy through the bus stop chicane. But Instead, no, he waits until after Blanchimont. They go side by side through Blanchimont. Eystein has to back off. Let's get an onboard from Eystein then as we go into the bus stop chicane. A bit too far back to really fight that one. So, again, nice overtaking move from Jacob Bisa, just using the slipstream to his advantage. Maybe using a little bit of the lower downforce. Make him faster in the straight line, of course. Make him a bullet when it comes to the straight line speed that he would have with slipstream. Something that just couldn't really be matched. That's going to allow Jacob Bisa to just continue on. As let's see again from Jacob Bisa's point of view the moves he made previously. So here's the move on Frederick Larsen around the outside of No Name, very impressive. And then watch up the inside here. He goes into Pouon, goes side by side, a little bit of netcode contact, keeps the car straight most importantly, and gets back on track seemingly with no damage, and just continues on. And then we'll see here the little snap there from Frederick Larsen. And watch Frederick Larsen going into the corner. Maybe sends it a bit too deep. And spins around. Keeps it, most importantly, out of the barrier. And that allowed Jacob Bisa then to fight Eystein further on. As we will go on board with the battle now between Ben Goldthorpe and Gianluca. Currently an amazing race from Jacob indeed. Jacob Bisa doing an incredible job to keep his car nice and clean so far. Only 2 more tours of the island, then we go, as Riley Jacob currently starting lap 20. The battle, of course, in the sprint. Needs to be said, of course, Marianne mentioning a good point there in the YouTube chat, that the sprint between Liam and Riley, Liam is going to start on pole position. If Riley wins the race, he's going to be starting all the way at the back. So Riley's going to have to fight all the way through. He's going to have to battle with a very hard fighting Jacob Bisa at the moment. He's going to have to battle a very hard charging Gianluca. As Gianluca, I mean, he has been struggling a little bit, as I say, to the second half of this stint, so I'm not sure whether there's any sort of issues with the car, maybe a little bit of damage, but yeah, Liam Kerr obviously starting on pole position for the sprint part of the race. Alex Shannon will be starting alongside him. Frank Bisa will be starting P3 for the sprint. Johan Roussel will be starting last for the sprint. And Riley Jacob will be starting P12, so Oyvind Haugland starting alongside his teammate. So again, watch for those Racing Lab guys to maybe try and make as quick of a move as they can. So it seems like towards the end of the race, we have actually now time to just reflect a little bit back on what we've seen so far. And what a race it's been from Jacob Bisa, but Riley Jacob pretty dominant. Looks like he was going to be challenged in the early part of the race from Liam Kerr, very early on. Liam, of course, unfortunately putting on the sprint race setup, thinking that was the first race. Unfortunately, let off a little bit by the fact that he will have now pole position for the next part of the race, so we'll be able to get a really nice run off the start if he can make that good start. And then Oyvind Haugland battling quite a lot with Gianluca, so it wasn't an easy second place for him in the main event so far. I think heartstrings for Gianluca, to be fair, as he looked like he had the pace to really be up there, battling with the top guys in P3 and P2 for quite a lot of the race, and unfortunately the second half, tyres may be failing him, as Rowley Shilter and Ben Goldthorpe for the Intense Sim Racing team did manage to get through, get past, and it's looking as though Rowley will be taking third place, and really sort of, I wouldn't necessarily say he hasn't had to fight for it, but it's just been sort of, he's been in a race that has been by himself for the most part, hasn't needed to make any sort of daring moves, like maybe we've seen from Jacob Bisa. So lots of storylines, of course, to be talked about as we move on to the final lap then here around Belgium. Riley Jacob, of course, will be bringing it home to finish, hopefully, in P1. Hopefully, I just haven't given him the commentator's curse. And the Voodoo Doll's, of course, not here. Something that he mentioned, or even mentioned last week, was that apparently he's got a Voodoo Doll of, as you see Barney there in the background, going absolutely mad with the white flag. Big respect to Barney, the flag waver. iRacing Cannon, of course. That Barney is, that is his job, and he has been doing it for years in the service. So massive respect to him. Takes time out of his day to be in many, many, many places at once, waving flags for everyone to enjoy. I do talk some utter nonsense sometimes, but hey, adds to the entertainment factor, I think, as we see Riley Jacob going through the middle part of the circuit now. Going through Piff Paff, going through Stavlo 1, through Stavlo 2, nice and easy. He's got 17 seconds back to Oyvind. Unless Oyvind is poking a lot of pins into that Voodoo Doll, I can't imagine Riley Jacob doing much else wrong here. And taking home a pretty convincing win as we go into the bus stop chicane. Final braking zone and final traction zone that you need to worry about for Riley Jacob. Just do nice and easy out of the corner, and that is a win in the Belgian Grand Prix for our main race here. Our first of 2 rounds, and Riley Jacob, of course, take a bow, my friend. Racing Lab P1 doing a little bit of a skid there on the outside. And is he going to do with some donuts? Let's see. Is he going to turn off any sort of any sort of assistance and try to make it there? But no, doesn't look like he's doing any burnouts just yet. Irvin Horgeland, of course, finishing P2, with Rolly Schilter finishing P3, so rounding out our podium. Gianluca and Ben Goldthorpe then P5 and then P4 respectively, as Hannes Schlogel will finish P6, Jacob Bisa P7, Eystein Schiapalone in P8, with Frederick Larsen coming around into the bus stop chicane. We go for Frederick. And this will give him a P9 on the road. With Frank Bisa just coming into the bus stop chicane now to round out the back end of our grid. Of course, Alex Shanna being an unfortunate DNF. Liam Kerr, unfortunately, loading the sprint race setup for the feature race. And with that, we move on to the warm-up. And before we do anything else, we do need to have a word from one of our main sponsors here, who helps us with all of the admin side of the stream, Extreme Scoring.
Allow Extreme Scoring to do the work for you.
Short word, really. So, for those of you who don't like adverts, we try to keep it short and sweet. Of course, the other thing as well is we do want to mention that during our warm-up time, if you are enjoying what you're seeing, you are enjoying the action, feel free to like, feel free to share the league around, feel free to join us as well. The links and everything you need to get involved are in the description. Absolutely join us. We cannot wait to see you guys racing out here in the IFL with us. We have both F3 on Sundays with an absolutely massive grid, and then the F1 obviously on the Saturdays, proving to be quite the tricky beast to tame, but a lot of these drivers putting on a good show at the very least, as we have just under 4 minutes then before we can get going again for our 7-lap sprint race. And in the meantime, there is obviously some other things we want to just go through, and that is the ever lovely sponsors that we have here for us. Of course, Extreme Scoring, we heard from them earlier, Butt Kicker, of course, another sponsor of ours who helps us with quite a lot of the prizes that we used to have. Capral Sim Racing, again, providing some other lovely prizes for everyone involved and also helping us out. And then the only other one left to mention is Family Money, which is one of the... I believe he's one of the racers and also one of the potential admin teams. Patrick Olson, it's his company. Helps you keep on track of your family's allowances, which is always nice, always easy. I don't have to worry about it, but maybe some of you do. Fingers crossed for tomorrow, of course. Everyone is racing in the F3 who is currently in the chat watching the F1. Fingers crossed that you have a good result tomorrow. Obviously, we wish you the best of luck here from the F1 side of it. And make sure you follow along with the F3 side of it. It will be on the, I believe, I need to try and remember the name of the channel. In the IFL broadcast, we have it linked. It will be on the Team Goon Squad YouTube channel. And if you just search for iFormula F3 series, you should be able to find it. Fingers crossed. It will be scheduled, of course. And while we're in the warm-up, one thing I do want to double-check. In the championship standings, let's see. Can I pick out the points? Unfortunately, it doesn't look like I can. There was a system that I was playing around with to maybe try and get the championship standings as they are right now provisionally set during the stream, but unfortunately still not working. As let's see if Liam Kerr is back out there on track, and indeed he is for that Duo Automotives team. That lovely red-looking livery with two shades of red, by the way. That nice little metallic red, and then also that glossy, maybe matte-ish looking red as the second colour. Rather nice, actually. Obviously, the league is a little bit limited in terms of livery customizations due to licensing reasons, mainly. The iRacing paint templates, unfortunately, are not out for us to be able to use, so we have to use the iRacing defaults, which I'm sure are ones that Mercedes have picked and chosen to give the car at least some level of customizability, which allows us to at least be able to see the differences between all the different cars, and it's not just the same Mercedes livery over and over again, because that would be rather confusing. As we are obviously now at the end of our warm-up, so within a minute's time, we will be moving on to our 7-lap sprint race. And oh boy, am I going to have a drink for this one. Grab yourself your popcorn, ladies and gentlemen, because this one's going to be explosive. Seven laps in length is our sprint, and of course we do reverse the top 12, so Johan Roussel unfortunately not being able to be on the front row as the gridding has been done. You can see there in the overall timing screen who is where, as we will move to the 5 red lights for our sprint race. We are green for our sprint, and it looks like it is an incredible start once more from Liam Kerr. A little bit of bogging in the midfield has meant that further down the order, there seems to be quite a lot of carnage, primarily due to the, not necessarily the racing lab teams, but primarily due to the Inten teams. Not really able to get the best start so far. Riley Jacob, of course, Maybe taking it just a little bit easy for now as we do go down the Kemmel Straight. We will look towards this battle between Jacob Bisa and Frederick Larsen. Jacob Bisa already putting in some work, making the move that we saw from last time work, as is Eystein Chiapolone already out there in the background, and I'm not sure who else that was out there as well. Ben Goldthorpe seemingly to nurse some damage. Potentially may have to get a replay of what just happened there, as Alex Shanna has also come off track as well from all of that. Let's see if we can get an onboard as to what just happened. So Eystein Chiapolone spun round there, out into the barriers. That is rear wing damage. And then up further ahead, you see Ben Goldthorpe also having some incident as well. So it seems like this midfield battle here, Riley Jacob, of course, trying to fight his way all the way through. Currently sat in P8. So looking to maybe make the move on Hannes now, as Riley Jacob tries to go around the outside of Blanchimont, following his teammate example, as his teammate goes up the inside of Frank Bisa. Riley Jacob having to just back out for now, having to sit behind for now. And I do wonder, are we going to see some moves being made from Riley Jacob? Is he going to be daring, or is he going to just wait? If he waits, of course, up the inside, follows along then the intense sim racing group of Hannes Schlogel. Up the inside of Frank Bisa. So already a move being made there. And DRS, of course, going to be achieved, as we will see if we can get on board with the speed cam for a little bit. As we just see the speed of these cars, as Riley Jacob with DRS in hand. Next lap, sorry, not this lap. I forget this is only even lap 2. This race has been so hectic so far. Action everywhere on track at the moment. Oyvind Haugland already near enough up to P4. Battling with Rolly Schilter, who is battling with Alex Shanna a bit further up the road. Riley Jacob just trying to pick his fights so far. Doesn't want a repeat of last week, as Jacob Bisa already into the pit lane and out of this Grand Prix. Riley Jacob looking to try and make these moves happen, but doesn't want to be too aggressive. Can't risk dipping the car and damaging it just yet. This is a 7-lap race, so you've got to pick your fights. But you also know you are very limited, and every lap will count. Try and make sure you can get the move done where you're not going to be overtaken straight back. And this is indeed what Riley Jacob's going to do. Up the outside then of Blanchimont we go. Makes the move even before Blanchimont, and is now able to follow through with his teammate. If we jump on board with Oyvind Haugland a bit further up the road, they're looking to maybe go and try and go 3 wide into the bus stop, but thankfully Alex Shanna had the presence in mind to maybe go a little bit too deep into the bus stop chicane and actually end up now with a huge train of cars sitting behind him. So Oyvind Haugland, unfortunately, not able to make the move on Alex. Gets the move done on Rolly, however, and this is going to mean that we now have the Racing Lab guys fighting their way back through. One more time we go. Up through Eau Rouge, up through Rallion. All the cars behind Alex Shanna are going to have DRS. So watch for Alex Shanna and watch how unfortunate this is going to be for him. Look at the DRS opening up. People are going either side of Alex Shanna, and he just has to sit in the middle of the road and watch it happen as they try and go 3 wide almost here into the corners just after the Kemmel Straight. And wow, some amazing racing here. Riley Jacob able to get past both of the intense sim racing guys, but not Alex Shanna. So Riley Jacob finally able to catch up almost into P3 of the sprint, as Oyvind Haugland now really needs to get his foot down, really needs to start hunting down Frederick Larsen, who is already out to an impressive lead over the back of these guys, who then Liam Kerr again once more, because he hasn't had to fight, even further up the road. So once more, now that they've got clean air, they need to show the pace they've got. Riley Jacob needs to get past Alex Shanna, and then maybe the 2 Racing Lab teammates can work together to catch up. Use a bit of the slipstream juggling if they can, maybe a bit of leapfrogging, and we'll see if they can make these moves happen. As Riley Jacob gets past Alex Shanna, and of course that will be moved, done and dusted, you would imagine. Except Alex Shanna is looking to maybe fight back with maybe under braking here into the bus stop chicane, but nope, just backs out of it once more. And then DRS, of course, being enabled means that Alex Shanna is going to have to probably give up that position, you would imagine, as the Intense Sim Racing group are very much all tooth and nail together. Both of them, actually, Gianluca trying to go for the move there. I believe that was on Rowley. So Gianluca doing a great job there to maybe catch Rowley off guard while Rowley was focused on Alex Shanna instead. And then we'll see if we can keep on board with Gianluca here, as DRS is open for him. So he is quite close to the cars in front, but maybe not close enough to receive the slipstream. Hannes just saying, probably, in fact, Rowley saying, sorry, for Gianluca, hey, mate, I'm not going to fight you. Just keep going. Just go. Let's try and work together. Let's try and catch up to the back of Riley Jacob. And then all three of us can work as a team to make sure that we can hopefully make these moves where it needs to be done. And of course, the Racing Lab team, Riley Jacob behind his teammate Øyvind Haugland, are they going to battle hard together, or are they instead going to try and work with 3 more tours of the island to go past Frederick Larsen and then Liam Kerr up ahead? Frederick Larsen currently, by the way, fastest driver so far. And that will mean something. That does mean an extra point, which in the sprint, actually probably more important, because you would take home the same amount of points that Liam would for winning the race if you have fastest lap and second place. Of course, so much action to unpack here in the sprint. So much action to unpack in the main event as well. Today has been a very good event here at Spa, and we hope that everyone else has been enjoying it up to this point. And Ben Goldthorpe, currently fastest man on track with a 145.9. I wanted to say 130 and 140 together. Hence the weird sounding 40. Øyvind Haugland then going to be challenged by Riley Jacob down the straight, but I don't think DRS by itself will be enough to catch up. It'll be enough to get onto the back, but I don't think it'll be enough to make the pass just yet. Riley Jacob maybe having to, if he wants this place off of his teammate, it's maybe going to have to fight for it. And Riley Jacob, I mean, with 2 more laps left, you'd imagine is going to make it difficult. He's not going to make it easy for his teammate, and I would hate to see what I've seen in other racing series in teammates coming together, as that could make things a little bit awkward. At least it hasn't been at the start of the race like I have seen in some motorsport series, as Frederick Larsen up the road, by the way, has actually managed to catch up to the back of Liam Kerr, and Liam Kerr is driving incredibly slowly now, having dropped almost half a second in one sector alone off the back end of Frederick Larsen. Frederick Larsen doing an incredible job keeping up with Liam, and last lap by was, I mean, you're looking at it half a second quicker than Liam Kerr. So Frederick Larsen really putting in the work to potentially get his first win here in F1. As Riley Jacob backs out of the move, I thought he was maybe going to go for it, but not quite yet. Instead, we will watch them all go through the bus stop chicane as Liam Kerr and Frederick Larsen then battling together on track. Is Frederick going to be able to make this move work? He's got this lap plus next lap to do it. DRS will open up, of course, and you would imagine that this is move said and done for Frederick Larsen. And indeed that is. He's already made the move way past before the braking zone. And is Riley Jacob going to be able to do the same thing? We will watch back on board, but no, Riley Jacob still sitting back, is not able to really get close enough, which is surprising. You would imagine Riley Jacob, considering the pace he had in the feature race, can't quite do it in the sprint. Maybe just doesn't want to make the move on his teammate and risk something silly, but you would imagine the two will give themselves enough respect to maybe make something like that happen. As further down the field, Rody Schilter, Gianluca, Hannes, all very close on track together. You can see them on board with Rowley then. You see the other two in 10 cars all trying to battle close. Well, as close as they can at least. And I have just noticed, by the way, when Frederick passed Liam, Liam has just gone off track. Same corner that Frederick did. Let's see where. Couldn't quite see the off track there. I thought maybe it was going to be one that was a little bit more dramatic than that. But nope. Seems pretty tame from that. It looked like it was just maybe an off track that extended maybe a little bit further. But I will say, look at how close the Racing Lab guys are behind Liam Kerr. Can the Racing Lab team on the final lap of the sprint race, can they push to make it a 2-3 for Racing Lab and push Liam Kerr out of his first podium here in the IFL in his very first race? Øyvind Haugland with DRS down the Camel Straight is going to maybe look for the move round the outside of the corner. Is he going to make it sick? He is. The move has been made. Øyvind now up into P2. Riley Jacob is going to maybe try and look for the move around the outside as well. Not able to make anything work just yet. But Riley Jacob, of course, with Slipstream, maybe can make a move as impressive as Jacob Bisa, or maybe Frederick Larson was going to be able to do it. Indeed, he's going to try for it around the outside of Puon, but has to back out. He wasn't going to make the move work just yet. He has to just sit, bide his time. Maybe Liam is really struggling with the deployment. Maybe his battery's going, because it seems like he's really slow on corner exits now compared to everyone else, and this is allowing the entire field to back up. Ben Goldthorpe now in the mix on the final lap of the sprint race. Riley Jacob may be able to upset Liam Kerr's chances of taking his first IFL podium here in his very first IFL race, his very first IFL sprint, and indeed he does. Up the inside then, he switches to the inside, does Riley Jacob, to defend from maybe a lunge here, and indeed the lunge got made from Liam Kerr. They're side by side still. Are they going to be able to touch? They do. They make contact and across the line. I'm not sure who got it. I'm pretty sure Liam got the move done, but maybe that'll be looked at by the stewards post-race. That looked incredibly close between the two of them, and I don't know if that could be considered maybe an unfortunate move. If it wasn't for the contact there on the outside of the corner, I'm not sure that's a move we look at to say Liam Kerr keeps hold of P3. I'm pretty sure we say that's a very good defensive move from Riley to gain P3. But what an end to the race. And holy hell. That was one heck of a move near the end there. So here we will watch on board with Riley Jacob as he makes the move past Liam Kerr here then through Blanchimont, switches to the inside, tries to keep on the inside, and watch on around the outside here. We go up the inside. Liam Kerr dives very late under braking. All nice and respectful, and I don't know, maybe actually Liam Kerr was able to make that move work. I don't know. Maybe it didn't look as bad as I first thought. We'll watch it on board with Liam. So Liam, around the outside then. I mean, talk about close racing. As, yeah, both drivers trying to get the power. Both drivers trying to get on the power as early as possible. Both of them are doing very similar things in terms of spinning the rear tires, and they just collided together. But what a move from Liam Kerr on the last lap of the race. I mean, talk about action. Liam Kerr, take a bow, my friend. That was incredible. And of course, we do have the Racing Lab team in the broadcast booth, or in the waiting room, and we will hear from both of them first, considering the race results. Those were the qualifying ones. Let's see from... Hopefully we can get them up for the heat, which was our main event, obviously. So we will bring in Riley Jacob here, our race winner of the first race. Riley, mate, congratulations on your win in the main race, but the sprint, I mean, that last lap, that was pretty dicey.
Yeah, that was close. It was good, it was clean, it was fun. I enjoyed it.
And the other thing as well is, one thing I did want to ask you, obviously in the first race, you had at least in terms of your battling, you had pressure from Liam right up until pretty much lap 7. Turns out it was because he put on the sprint setup, unfortunately. So, yeah, a little bit unfortunate from him. But...
yeah, I was super nervous when I saw his pace. I'm like, am I really that slow this week?
Well,
I was trying to work out if like he had medium downforce trim or high downforce trim. I was going through everything. I'm like, why is this dude so fast?
I suppose a few laps less of fuel will equate to that level of pace difference. Yeah. But even still, I mean, Liam looks quick, and you have to admit, in terms of a challenge to yourself now in the championship, Liam's going to be one you're looking out for, right?
Yeah, Liam seems pretty quick, especially, I don't know how much he's used this car, but if he's just hopping in it for the first time, that's pretty good pace to just hop in it and be that quick.
Yeah, absolutely. But thoughts then, mate, on your experiences then in the main race and then also the sprint. How did you find it? Obviously, had to battle through in the sprint for quite a dramatic finish. So, sort of, how did you find the racing today?
Well, the main race was pretty good. Like I said, I was nervous those first 7 laps because of Liam's pace. But then after that, it just became tire management because these tires die so fast here that it's like driving on ice. But in terms of the sprint, I just kind of didn't really pick any aggressive battles. Just kind of hung back and waited for my opportunities and saved it all for the last lap and tried to get Liam on the last lap, but it just didn't work out.
And of course, with the way that the points are now, I don't want to say anything just yet because I want to double check. But I think the championship fight between yourself and Oyvind is heating up once more after he managed to get that car gap between you and Liam at the end of the sprint, as well as obviously finishing P2 in the main race. So again, you guys are making it really close in the championship, and you know, I did say that maybe it would be a storyline to watch as that Racing Lab 1-2 all the way to the end, final race of the season between you two. And one thing I wanted to brush up on from last race out, I should say, is did you also invest in that voodoo doll? Were we seeing some voodoo being in play?
I didn't, but I thought about it. I thought about going on eBay and finding a little Norwegian teddy bear, gluing it to the rig and poking it every time he starts to pull a gap on me.
Of course, didn't need it for the sprint. For the main race. So congratulations to yourself on that one. But hey, maybe in the sprint it would have allowed you to make that elusive move because it seemed like Oyvind had all that pace in the sprint.
Yeah, he was super quick in the sprint. I had DRS on him, and even still, I was just reaching the back of him before we hit the corner, so I didn't have enough time to overtake. So his pace was really good. I think if me and Oyvind don't make any mistakes in the feature races, that this championship could be won in the sprint races.
Well, there you go. You've heard it here from Riley. Watch the sprint races, because they are the most action you will ever see in single-seaters, at least in terms of F1. And Riley, mate, before we sort of let you go, is there any sort of final thoughts? Anybody you want to give a shout-out to?
Shout out to my girlfriend Brittany. She watched this entire thing. Shout out to her, and shout out to Racing Labs Esports out of Norway.
There you go. Short, sweet, and again, thanks to the lovely girlfriend that he has. But yes, mate, we'll let you go. Celebrate with the champagne for the main race, and then you know, maybe some words after with Liam in the final corner. But again, congratulations,
thank you.
mate.
Yep, thank you.
Now we will pull in his teammate. Hear a word from the man who finished P2 in the main race, and then also, I believe, P2 in the sprint as well, after finally making that move on Liam. Oyvind, mate, welcome in. P2 in both races. You've got to be pretty happy with that one.
Oh no, I am the first loser once again. Damn it. I had my voodoo doll set up and everything. But I was going to send you guys a picture, but apparently my shaman that takes care of the blessings of, or what's it called, the cursing of the voodoo dolls, he said you can't show it on the internet, then it's going to lose its power. But apparently it lost its power anyway, so I'm going to kick someone's ass, I think.
And, you know, in terms of the feature race, I mean, it looked as though you two and the Racing Lab team were just carving your way through the field, making pretty, I would say, cautious decisions, it looked like, for the most part, and just tried to make your way through. But near the end there, you had DRS on Liam, got that second place. And one question that I do have for you is, do you think Liam's going to challenge you two for the title? Do you think he's going to be able to really come in and put that car between the Racing Lab team?
Yeah, he's got quite a bit of pace. So I'm trying to decide if I'm gonna be gracious in answering this, or I'm gonna be Conor McGregor. I'm not quite sure. So I think Riley's too fast, and yeah, I'm gonna go and say I don't think he's gonna be able to do it, just to motivate him to train more. Yeah, so no, I think it seems like we got a pretty good control over this. But I also think he was doing soft on the first stint in the first race, wasn't he?
Yeah, he had the sprint. He had the sprint set up loaded for the first race.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. That's hilarious. I've done the same.
Unfortunately.
Yeah. So yeah, I think he can become really quick, but I don't think it's going to be quick enough.
Well, obviously, starting the race partway through the championship, you'd imagine that it's going to be pretty hard to really, like, fight for anything championship-wise between you two, but definitely, in terms of on track, he's one to watch out for. But, Oivind, mate, what were your thoughts in sort of both the feature and the sprint? Did you have any moments that you figured needed to be maybe looked at, or any battles that were unexpected?
No, it was okay. I had a touch somewhere, I think, with Liam, but of course that's a difficult situation, and yeah, I don't like complaining. Shit happens. Nobody in here is trying to do anything crazy over the top. So yeah, I thought it was fun, but I got pretty annoyed that Riley got away so cleanly, and I was stuck fighting because I couldn't even race against him. So it was good that we decided to try to catch you guys on the second race. But it was crazy for the sprint race, seeing cars flying everywhere.
Yeah.
We were just like praying at the same time, just like don't die now. So yeah, that was a really fun race to be a part of.
Absolutely. And mate, congratulations again, P2 in both the feature and the sprint. And, you know, starting from near the back of the grid to finish P2 in the sprint is no easy feat. So once again, congratulations on that one. And before we let you go, is there anyone you want to give a shout out to? Any other final thoughts you have?
Who's this Gianluca? He's got to become quick, isn't he?
Gianluca, yeah. I mean, Gianluca out of... I don't want to say out of nowhere, but he's definitely quick around Spa. He's proven that he's one of the quicker guys of that Intend Force, so...
Yeah, no, I wanna actually give a shout out to Frederick. It's so cool that he's super fast in F3 and tries to go Formula 1. I hope more of the F3 drivers is considering the same thing. If anyone needs tips or anything, just let me know. I'll be glad to help. And of course, I have a girlfriend that's very patient, waiting for me to finish the league race on a Saturday at 6 o'clock in Norway. So, and thanks you so much for setting up this league. It's so fun to drive in and making Riley look really good.
Well, there you go. You've heard it. We make fast people look fast. We make Oivind's and Riley's girlfriends wait. But they are lovely people, so they don't mind it. And in terms of the league, it's a great place to drive. You know, that seems to have covered most of what was said. So get yourself involved.
Absolutely.
Join us in the F1. Give these Racing Lab guys something to do. But once again, guys, congratulations on a great team effort from both of you today. And hopefully we'll see you again next time out. I cannot remember which circuit we're going to next, because I don't have it up, but I'm sure wherever it is, it's going to be carnage in the sprint, as it always is, and hopefully the main event was just as exciting as this one was.
Oh, I look so much forward to it.
But cheers, guys. Once again, pleasure talking to you, and we'll see you again.
Thank you very much.
So we'll try and get in now Frederick Larson and also Liam for the sprint race winner and also sprint race third position after a very hard-fought final lap between himself and the Racing Lab guys. Frederick Larson, mate. Frederick, it's been a while. Win!
Yeah, it has.
You got yourself a win here in the in the feature, of course, and in terms of the main race, the 22 lapper, how do you feel that went?
Well, it went. I mean,
Yeah.
first I had some contact on the first lap. I don't know if that was my fault. I don't know. It might have been. It might have not been. But then I thought I might be able to throw on some hard tires and just finish the race with those. And those were basically the worst tires I've ever tried. I mean, I could drive a tractor faster than that Formula 1 car with hard tires. I just hated those. But then I thought, let me just stick with them now. And then I could just see everyone passing me when they got on to the soft. And I was just like, yeah, I might as well try and set the fastest lap then. And I mean, I know I didn't do it. I don't think I did. Because, I mean, it wasn't the greatest lap overall with those soft tires. But, yeah. I think I got a P9, which is okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was P9, and considering the issues you had, that was pretty good going. But then, of course, you converted it to a win in the sprint race, which seemed like it was one of those, well, I'll just sort of put my foot down, make the move past Liam eventually, and then run away with it.
I was actually so scared because I could see Riley and Owen closing up, and Liam he had created kind of a gap on, I think it was 3 seconds, and I was just like, yeah, this is gonna be me defending against Riley and Owen, and then Liam is just gonna drive off into the distance, and that is the podium gone. But I think Liam hit something. I think he told me that. So I mean, quite unfortunate for him, but really lucky for me.
Yeah.
And then we kind of switched the roles where he was defending against them and I was just driving off into the distance. So that was quite good.
I mean, you took home a win regardless, and you got to be pretty happy with that. And of course, a win in the sprint is one that must imagine to be a relief almost that you finally got the sprint race over. You didn't have to deal with too much of the chaos in the mid pack, and were able to just sort of pull away, as it were.
Yeah, and I was so scared on the last lap because the last race I did was Imola, the opening race, and then I haven't had time for the other races, but at Imola I crashed on the last lap from P2, so I was just like, don't crash on the last lap. I was so scared.
Well, you didn't. You converted it to a win, and once again, mate, congratulations to that in the sprint race. And I'm not sure if you'll be joining us throughout the rest of the F1 season, but if we are, hopefully we see you back again.
I'll try to do so. I was meant to drive the last race as well, but it kind of threw me off that there wasn't a 2-week gap, so...
Right, okay.
Yeah, so I was on YouTube and then realizing that the Formula 1 race was live. And then I thought, and I don't live where my rig is, so I had to order some plane tickets for the next day in order to do the F3 race because I hadn't realized that we raced that weekend.
So,
yeah.
A little bit of a stressful time then.
Yeah.
But next race out then, I do believe, is, if I can find the events.
In 2 weeks, I think.
Yes. No?
Yes.
Next week.
No. Next week.
Next week.
I'm really happy that you told me that because I didn't realize that.
Yeah, it's next week, and it will be Zandvoort.
Okay. That is a good track.
Yeah, I mean, Zandvoort is... I mean, it's not the one with the banking, so interesting to see how the F1 cars will go there. And, you know, it'll be interesting to see, but again, mate, you still, I imagine, have another race to do tomorrow.
Yes,
And,
that is correct.
How are you feeling about that one?
I don't have a setup yet, and I haven't tested the car yet, so I have no clue at all. But I think I'm gonna go, and this is a bit of a clue for the F3 guys watching. I'll go for the low downforce because it's just the best down setup for the race, and hands down, every time it's the low downforce that wins.
Well, there
So,
you go.
There you have it.
Marianne in the chat, of course, is going to be writing down that note.
Yeah.
But yeah, again, Frederick, congratulations on the win in the feature, and I'm sure hopefully we'll see you back again on Zandvoort. And before we let you go, is there anyone you want to give a shout out to? Any other final closing thoughts?
Well, my team, and the guys participating here as well. It's nice to have someone to race with, and also race pretty clean. I don't know if I were the most cleanest driver today, but the others were. So I mean, yeah. Shout out to them.
Well, there you go. There you have it. Our feature race, sprint race winner, Frederick Larsen. Congratulations again, mate.
Thank you.
And we'll hear from our third place man, Liam Kerr, who, as we heard from Frederick, had an unfortunate bit of contact, which maybe meant that his race didn't go the way he wanted in the feature. So we'll bring him in and get his final thoughts before we close off the stream. Liam, mate, disappointment maybe is words that are going to be said for the sprint race, but a really good showing out for your first race here in the IFL. How do you think the race went from your own point of view?
Honestly, I'm kind of disappointed because I made a massive mistake in no name and sped off and hit the wall because I was too busy worrying about the guys behind and just not paying attention. So I'm kind of annoyed about that. But other than that, this has been pretty much my first race in this car, so I'm pretty happy with the pace.
Yeah, I mean, you seem pretty quick. I mean, we said that, unfortunately, you mentioned in the chat that during the main race, you unfortunately loaded the sprint race setup, which...
Yeah, I didn't even notice about 5. I was like, how am I so much quicker? And then I was like, oh, fuel.
Yeah, it does make quite a bit of difference in this car. I'm sure you've probably found out already.
Yeah, massive difference.
And, you know, in terms of how you are finding the car, obviously you say it's one of your first times out. How do you think the car is to drive? Are you enjoying it? Did you drive the Merc before? The W12?
Yeah, I drove the Merc before. I absolutely love that car. It's like my favorite car in iRacing. But if I'm going to be honest, I kind of hate this car. Like this entire race, every single corner, it felt like I was going to spear off into a wall. But that was mainly because I was probably pushing a bit too hard and the tires overheated. But still, I don't know. I just don't really like the balance of this car.
Well, you'll have time to obviously learn maybe if there's like some setup tweaks you can do to maybe make it feel a little bit nicer. Maybe some other little tricks. Maybe have a word with Oyvind. Apparently he says that he's happy to offer some help as well. But one thing I did want to ask as well is in the sprint race, obviously you said that you had damage in No Name. Was that, you said that was due to spearing off, was that front wing damage mainly, or? Yeah, mainly front. I'm honestly surprised that I didn't break my suspension because I hit the wall right where it kind of sticks out on an angle and sideswiped it. So okay.
I think I had steering damage as well because my steering felt kind of wonky after that. But I still managed to keep it on the podium like just at the last corner.
Yeah.
It was quite tight.
A really hard-fought battle between yourself and Riley in the final corner. We were watching on board, of course, last lap. Commentators going absolutely mental in the box.
Yeah, it was super close. I accidentally touched him going into the last corner, and then we just kind of bounced into each other, slipping and sliding, but it worked out. No one died.
Yeah, it was quite funny watching it back on the onboard cameras. The both of you slid out of the final corner as you put the power down, trying to get the power on ahead of each other. So
You have to be so smooth on the throttle out of that corner. It's so tricky.
but I'm pretty sure that is our closest race finish yet in the IFL history. So that's one for the record books, at least.
Yeah, that's good. What was the gap? Do you know at the finish line?
It was point. I'm trying to look at it now. It's like it was 0.005 or something. It was, yeah, it was it was ridiculously close.
Yeah, that's pretty close.
But thankfully, you know, you managed to come out on top with the drag race to the line, taking the shorter line. Obviously, was able to get down the power. Maybe a little bit earlier. Maybe the bump helped. Maybe it didn't. But hey, at the end of the day, P3 in the sprint for your first race out with IFL, and you know the main race. I think, you know, it looked good. You looked like you really had pace. You were setting yourself up to do well. Just lessons to be learned, obviously, with the with the setup that I'm sure won't be repeated in future.
I've done that way too many times. I need to check my setups before I hop in the car. I'm very done with that.
If you want, I'll just DM you in between each race and be like, at the end of qualifying, check your setup.
Yeah, I think I've done it like 4 times where I've started a race with my quali set. So,
well, hopefully doesn't happen again. Next round out though, next week we are at Zandvoort. What do you think about Zandvoort as a circuit?
oh, I don't know. I remember driving that track in the W12 and it was really hard to overtake, but hopefully it's a little bit hard to, like, a little bit easier to overtake in these new cars with the slipstream and the DRS. But I don't know. It should be fun. High downforce tracks, I usually like them, so I hope I'm quick there.
Well, hopefully you can take the fight back to the Racing Lab guys, of course, and provide us some more action, because it was definitely exciting from the commentary booth. And, you know, before we let you sort of head off and de-stress, is there anyone you want to sort of give a shout out to? Anyone you want to thank?
Definitely, like, just everyone that's running this league. This seems to be a very good league, and especially Riley. He was very, very fast. I need to have a look at the way he's driving this car, because that pace is insane.
Well, there you go. Maybe a little bit of review time post race. But one other thing as well, just to double check, I am saying your last name right? Kerr?
Yeah.
That's how I'm pronouncing it?
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah,
I thought it was, but you can never be too sure.
yeah, you can never be sure with some last names.
Yeah, there's definitely some names out there that I was saying wrong that I've had corrected now, so there you go. But again, once again, Liam, congratulations, mate, and hopefully we see you back again, man, in the broadcast booth for the next race out at Zandvoort. Hopefully we're talking about a really good result there for Zandvoort, and you know, maybe learn a thing or two from the Racing Lab guys.
Yeah, I hope so. I'll see you guys out there then. I gotta head off.
Yeah, absolutely, mate. Cheers.
Yeah, cheers, man.
And that is it from us here in the IFL. All done and dusted. All ready for next week at Zandvoort. While I did mention, it's going to be spicy. It's going to be spicy. Make sure you follow along. Make sure you follow all of the socials so that you can keep on board with everything that is being followed. And you know what? In the meantime, check out the F3 stream as well. Support our boy Frederick Larson. But for now, guys, this has been Alyssa. This has been the IFL Round 4 from Circuit de Spa-Francorchamps. And we will see you out next week from Zandvoort.